even without knowing, we seem to be digital twins in the clothes we're wearing. But we're gonna indeed give a short presentation on how we have implemented or what our digital strategy is. Danone, I hope we don't have to give a lot of background, very high level. Danone consists of multiple business units, actually 3. Both myself and Ziad, we're working in the essential dairy and plant-based business unit. Danone is globally represented, but within Belgium, we also have around 1,800 Danoners split over the 2 big plants. The one in Rotselaar, I'm working in Rotselaar, and the one in Wevelgem, where Ziad is working. Very short, Rotselaar, home of Actimel, mainly producing Actimel. We also produce light and free Activia, limited lines. Milk is coming very close from the plant. Around 500 people are helping us to make the story, and most of the products we're producing, they are being exported to other countries.
Thank you. So in Alpro Wevelgem, we produce plant-based alternatives for dairy products. It's a variety of drinks alternatives for yogurt, creams. It's quite close here, so I assume a lot of people are familiar with it. We have around 18 production lines, 10 drink lines, 8 fresh lines, and we export to 56 countries. In total, we have around 800 employees in our factory. So it's one of the biggest factory within the network. And myself and Raf will explain a bit on how we tackled our digital transformation. So with any change, typically it starts with a big plan. And we started with our master plan. This was 3 years ago. Was the master plan of Wevelgem, which was based on 5 pillars. We go digital, which is what we will focus on more today. Excelling in operations, it's a business. We need to drive certain results. Keep our people in mind because they are the ones who make the difference. But also we're a green company, make sure we also have a positive impact on our planet. As well as have our site ready for the future, which means having the right facilities so that our employees can work in an efficient way. So zooming in a bit on digital. Digital means is a very expansive scope. For us, the focus will mainly be in this talk on the concept of the connected worker, because it's where the IT part, OT part, and the lean part comes together. It's the concept of, instead of having your people trying to find information, that the information flows to them at the right moment so that you enable your people on the shop floor to make good decisions so that they can focus on the value-added activities. Basically, why did we want to do this? If you look, this was our current reality. You see, we have, like many factories, a variety of systems, being paper-based Excel systems, HMIs, ERP packets, and your information is flowing actually through people. So from one system to the other, there is some information transfer that needs to happen manually. It introduces quite some risk. It's a risk of human error, as well as it's not efficient. You have your people doing repetitive tasks that don't really add value in your process. So what was our goal? Our initial goal was to go through to a connected worker platform which centralizes all of the information so that the people are enabled to make the right decisions with the right information at the right time. Things that are pushed at the right moment, and to make sure that the digital system helps them by having, for example, certain data available to reference, and to make sure that there is some validation or some error handling to make sure that no mistakes happen. The second part is what we see, and it's still a bit like this. We're moving further and further away from it. But we saw that we were working with a lot of silos. We have some teams. All of the teams, they have certain issues, and each time there's an issue, they escalate it to their team leader. Then the team leader needs to transfer the information to the other team. And what you see is you have all these capable people on the charts. but they are not fully enabled to really reach their full potential. They're being bottlenecked by the team leader, who doesn't have the capacity to pass all the information along. So what we saw was a good opportunity with digital to actually make sure that the information flows to the people, not through the people, and the platform enables intercommunication between peers. So peer-to-peer communication where our team leader can focus not on just passing along information, but focus on the process, focus on coaching, moving away a bit from the control. How did we tackle this? We were quite ambitious. We hear digital, so we think we're going to go agile. We do sprints. So first up, we start with sprint planning. Week 1, we define what are the workflows we want to tackle, what are the success factors, how will we configure our tool. And our second week, we already piloted in a specific part of the plant. The third week, we demo it to other departments so that we can get feedback, we can get some enthusiasm across the factory. And in the fourth week, we process the feedback. So we start using creating user guides, we see how we can adapt it, and we evaluate, do we go for rollout or not? How did our planning look like? If you look to about a little more of about 2 years ago, if you see, we started almost each month, we implemented, or we strive to implement a new topic. First up, self-inspection. It's a quality inspection tool. We started in our fresh departments. Secondly, we have our behavior observation system, which is a safety culture tool. We started in our logistics departments. Then afterwards, we focused on 5S zoning in our fresh department again. And back to our logistics department with Gamba walks to make sure that everybody is being approached and being coached in the proper way. Having then moving forward to the defect handling system. So we can see the sprint planning is quite ambitious, not only a quite short time period that we had in mind for each sprint, but also doing all the different tools in different places in our factory. The idea was if we spread it, we will spread the workloads, we will spread the enthusiasm so we can move faster. The reality was a bit different. I'm going to come back to that later. While we were doing this, so when you're doing digitization, you obviously look at the workflows. You have a lot of clever people in a room, and you look, how can I digitize this? And you see a lot of gaps. You see a lot of gaps, and you want to close those gaps. This is where the lean part comes in. You see a lot of efficiencies, and you want to address these. So we redefine workflows. We don't just say, this is currently you put it in, or you write it down on paper, and now you put it in a connected worker platform. No, we see how does the work completely change. And what did we learn in this process? That there's quite a big difference between digitization and digital transformation. We were very ambitious. There was a certain business commitment to really focus on digital, but there was no realization yet that on the business side, a lot of work process would also change due to this digital transformation. So what we did was we went for some inspiration and some best practices in other factories. We went to our colleagues in Opole, but we also went to one of our examples in Rotselaar to see how they approached it.
And this is indeed very similar to where we started. We started 3 years ago, having a lot of tools being implemented. But what we learned is that these were all siloed applications. High training needs to implement safety systems, quality systems, maintenance systems. People were saying like, it's not helping us. It's a bit what Ziad mentioned. The information needs to flow to all of the systems, and it's a duplication of work. And on the other hand, people are saying, hey, in my life, personal, at home, it's so easy to do things. Why cannot be the same at work? So we started thinking, because our ultimate goal was to make production live on the shop floor more efficient, simplify collaboration, let data flow, make sure that we are on top of things. Reality was that sometimes people felt other people were saying what had to be done. It was the implementation of tools that was driving the agenda, IT tools, OT tools, but we were feeling we're missing something. And we started digging on why is that. because ultimately the systems are clear. They follow a certain process. It's clear on what's happening. There's consistency because computer says no, the system is set up, so there's repeatability. But what we have learned is that we were missing coherence. People were flagging it. When I have my phone, it's easy, it's convenient. I know how to navigate across all of the applications. You have a common way, a common framework in the back, and that's the 3C concept for digital operational excellence. It's not just by implementing the tools step by step, application one on top of the other, kind of throwing them to the workforce, that we will make a change. They will definitely make a change. Sometimes we've been working with consultants helping us to step up in time, driving results, which is, of course, external knowledge you bring in. But the question you need to ask yourself is, what's your ambition, what's your timeline? If the ambition reaches further than, and this is a rough estimate, 18, 24 months, it's worth to rethink what you're doing. It's worth rethinking because this is kind of the learning that both Rotselaar and Alpro have faced, saying like, we're kind of stuck after a while. We have implemented, but we're not seeing the efficiency we're going after. And actually we wanted to build a culture which is more future-proof, integrated, focused on ongoing improvements rather than isolated, standalone, project-focused implementation. There are two keys to that success. First one is you need to find the tools that are capable to do that, of course, because you need to have the tools that support your way of working. Tools need to be hybrid because it's not just black and white. We've implemented tools for video instructions, and I said this is really great. First thing, it takes a lot of time, but second of all, I'm not going to redo my 5,000 work instructions, which I already have. And then it's like, yeah, but this is meant for this to solve a specific problem. Whereas actually you want to have a smooth transition going forward. And this is where we started to notice it's not just IT, it's not just OT, it is lean, the three together that will bring the change. Because you always want to start small, because what can we do? What can we manage? But ultimately you want to transform big and mainly keep the momentum, keep things going. And this is also where we, traditionally you have the choice, or you make the choice, best of suite, consistency, one application, kind of covering all of your needs. There's best of breed, situation we were in, trying to have a lot of applications for the different use cases or functional teams. And actually what we have noticed is you need the best of both. You need to have a way to integrate them, to work on protocols, digital handshakes, marry, again, IT, OT, and lean together, because this is where we've seen the coherence coming to the surface. And this is where we've seen adoption going up significantly, because ultimately implementing applications on top of each other wasn't driving what we were doing. So in our case, the unified interface, unified reporting, and expert tools in IT landscape, but also a unified connector was helping us to go for the transformation, not just digitization, the true transformation, where we were able to simplify, integrate tools and systems, so make it more easy for operators, food heroes, equipment owners to work with. Give them the right information at the right time, because everyone has different needs from the different tools we're implementing, and use technology in our favor, support our jobs, don't be the slave of what's been introduced, ultimately always to drive safety, quality, performance, delivery, the hard business metrics of your plant. And this is a bit what Ziad was referring to as well. Then you start to realize the soft part is the hard part. It's not the introduction of a tool, it's not the introduction of a system, it's making sure that the adoption is rising. That is where the true transformation lies. It goes from checking up on people to coaching people. How do you avoid that the team leader is the bottleneck? How do you avoid that people are the bottleneck, but that the tool is actually driving your process? And how do you ensure that it's not relying on discipline, but discipline? It's a word not existing, but how do you drive basically the behaviors and have the tool to support your way of working rather than relying on people and all of the expectations we have linked with them. The way that it now looks like in our plans is completely different. So where we had multiple systems, we have still the same use cases, still the same flows, but we have unified, especially on the front end for operators, OE, learning, dashboarding, training, checklists, safety observations, traceability, even call-off material, but we have harmonized it in a way that we have moved all of the complexity to the back and have tried to simplify things in the front. So on our shop floor, people are walking around, tablets, mobile phones. We don't have whiteboards, or we still have whiteboards, but we are moving away from whiteboards, implementing big television screens. It's been supported with both on Wi-Fi, mobile private network. So the technology is there to support what we're doing, but the drive is different. And the fact that everyone is working in the same context, the same way of working, we are able to have a huge step change in our data visualization, both real-time, performance driving system, insights, business intelligence, because the connection of the three building blocks makes it much easier to drive things going forward. And that is back to Ziad, because now we're entering even a next step in the way we work.
Thank you. So initially, we set up 3 years ago to start with our master plan, but about a year ago, another big change came, and this is a Danone AWS, which is like a lean methodology, the way you set up your factory, the way you set up your organization, and the tools you use. And it's built upon two key principles. The first one is the power of zero, which is the mindset that you focus to always strive for zero losses. Losses in the general sense, being any type of waste or inefficiency in your process. And the second principle is the power of 100s, which is you try to strive for 100% of your people to show ownership and to show participation to help strive towards those zero losses. So it's not the few, it's the many that work on the improvements. And with the system, with this lean methodology, we see it's coming back to the same principle that we strive for with our connected worker application. Information is, the ownership is with the people, the coaching comes from the leadership. Together with this system came a good structure to make sure that digital was not just loose initiatives and different departments, but real clear guidelines and systems that we can use. It's the same systems that are in use in Wroclaw as well. It's things like defect handling, how you manage defects in your factory, how you manage unexpected breakdowns on your machines, how you make sure that they are well maintained, autonomous maintenance, centralizing methodologies to make sure that they are well parameterized and making sure they run smooth, and many other systems. And using all these systems, we look how can we make our connected worker platform, Michael's, work in a tandem to make sure that everything works as one coherent system. And you saw much more pictures in Wroclaw. It's the same platform we use. And we saw a lot of improvement with that. We also adapted our team, which is we took not just the digital team, but we incorporated it together with our lean team. It's our Danone AWS team. Not going to go through the whole team. But one of the things we also added is one of the positives we saw with Wroclaw, with other Danone factories that are good in digitalization is the communities. It's again the power of the people, and we started with two communities. We have our Power BI community, which drive certain reports, and we have our AdPro community, which is our digital AllPro employees. And then as well, this is a shameless plug, but we have an open vacancy for a data analyst. So if anybody is interested, let me know after the talk. It's a fun place to work at. And so what do they do, these communities? The Power BI community, it's not just dedicated people, full functions. It's just people from the business. It's process experts, it's different stakeholders. And together they look at what are use cases that we need, what are the reporting needs, how can we build data sets together with the data analysts, how can we build reports on these data sets and make or set the right priorities. And then we have our AdPro community, which is currently existing of 34 people. These are just people on the shop floor from the 5 different shifts, 4 different departments. And they are the ones, they discover the new things, they test it, they give feedback, they animate digital together with us on the shop floor. they are also the digital point of contact within the teams to make sure that when something new is launched, they can provide the communication. But when a colleague is struggling, because it's not always easy to go digital, you see sometimes people struggle, this is their first point of contact to help with them. They help build our digital vision, and they also for themselves, through this whole process, develop the new digital skills, so they also benefit from it. And looking to the people side, we also adapted with the learnings we had from Lotzar, how will we adapt our digital landscape? And basically what you see is it's still under construction, because we're currently in the digital transformation, we're currently in the Danone AWS transformation. We see Danone AWS as the big support for everything, with our industrial and business platform at the bottom, providing the necessary data, a reporting layer in between, and then our connected shop floor application, which is one of our core platforms. Above it, you see expert tools. Certain tools will always keep existing, but we try to strive for consistency on the shop floor, so that an operator, a technician, doesn't have to use 20 applications for then 20 different functionalities. And on this, we look also towards our communities and how we can properly animate them. So by using a clear lean structure, and by using the power of the people, the power of 100, we see good improvements with our digital transformation. And it's just going further ahead.
Because the picture that we see in Wevelgem is very similar to the one that we see in Rotselaar, and it's all driven by the lean methodology. Danone AWS, the TPM methodology, consists of pillars, not something new, but it's driving what we do on the shop floor, because what the theory tells us and what is the best way to do things, we have centralized this in the pillars. In a white circle, it's intellectual property, so we cannot show this, or all the different ways of working, linked to cleaning, inspection, defect handling. But then we started mapping where are the digital tools, because very much they come with, I have a tool, it's a paper, it's a way of working, and they don't, it's a good methodology, but it's not integrated with the digital tools. And I think this is where we've had a huge advantage, because when we started doing the mapping, we could say like it's nicely integrated, and the adoption is what we're doing. In its own, the AWS integrated work systems by itself says like there's a lot of interconnection between the things that we're doing. There's a lot of interconnection between education, training, network, autonomous maintenance, safety. And that is where we've seen in the past that silo applications didn't have that, or people had the ambition to have it integrated, but our driver was how do we get that digitized. And if we look at our unified interface, it's not the only thing, of course, that we had. At the core, we still have our data bus. On the next slide, I'll go into much more detail. But most of the use cases, most of the operational shop floor practices can be implemented across the applications or the landscape that we have. Doesn't mean that all of the information is sitting there. There are around in the IT landscape a lot of corporate and or expert tools. But what we try to step away from is make sure that experts remain in the expert tools and the handshake is being given by the platform. Trying to avoid that we enforce people to move for small parts of the management processes into different applications or start duplicating information, because this is the example or the slide with where we had all the individual applications. If you look at it from a functional point of view, it's nicely and consistent, but the coherence is missing at shop floor level. So this is something that we are working on. It's an ongoing evolution. If you would have seen this picture 3 years ago, it's different than it is today. And this is the integration we're after. On the OT side, because I talked about the unified connector, I would say, we're transitioning to the next level. It's work in progress, so I cannot share a lot of outcomes yet. But we're stepping away from the traditional 5 layers where the information needs to flow from top to bottom or the other way around. And we're installing, we call it the bus, the data bus, event-driven MQTT protocol, where we are connecting from devices, actuators up to business level, and where we can subscribe and publish information. So avoiding point-to-point contacts, integrating it both on the IT, OT side and our connected worker, because people don't have to go and search for information. Information is being pushed, and this is the subscription we can go after. So the data bus, it's a bit what Ziad, I think, referred to as well. There's still an MES component in it, but where traditionally you would go, MES is the big driver, and we put everything in. We're saying like it is definitely a component in our digital landscape, but what is the value if you have different tools coming on top of it, and how do you integrate them, especially on an industrial level? Let's make sure that we have the asset frames, that it's consistent, and that we can start scaling up data across all of the applications. If we look to what's coming, 25 and plus, there's a small change because we're referring to the unified namespace. Unified reporting expert tools are still there. The unified interface is there. The main goal is the bottom, let the geeks be the geeks. Let technology evolve. Let's flourish and thrive on all of the technological evolutions, but let not come with a sensor which have their own interface. No, the question we often ask is like, okay, the sensor is really cool. How can we get to the data? Data needs to go to the bus, and the bus can feed another applications. That's a fundamental change in how we're looking at things. Of course, this is challenging ourselves, challenging some of our companies as well that we work with, but this is helping us to get the scale and the integrations, because very often you need to make integrations rather than to make them point to point, make them to the central system so we can evolve. It's going to benefit us because also the real-time notifications, we can unify that interface and we can still refer back to expert tools or more detailed tools, but we try to keep the change limited to our people. We can experiment in the back and integrate it in our way of working because we have unified interface. And the same with the reporting. Once your data is consistent and there's a model behind, the reporting and the incorporation in your day-to-day practices is really smooth. So there is a way to do things better. You just have to find it. Thanks for listening.